Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old 4th Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Thanks for listening on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, on demand at ProgressiveVoices.com, or maybe you're just listening when you podcast and where you podcast. Well, fine. Thank you for doing that. We do appreciate that. Show notes, as always, at RonShowATL.com. My guest later in the show is a Georgia State House Democratic candidate, Mishael White. He's running for District 81 against Noel Cahan, who we spoke about a good bit yesterday. Noel, one of the instrumental, I'll just call her a busybody, a Karen, who helped to spearhead the chasing off of a well-qualified education professional by the name of Cecilia Lewis, who was moving from Maryland to take a DEI job created by the school system now, not by her, created by the school system in Cherokee County. She had taken the job, was coming down to finish up the last-minute details, and then there were school board hearings with angry parents showing up, and there were people who were literally needing to be escorted out of these school board hearings a couple years ago because of violent rhetoric and threats. Cecilia Lewis decided not to take that job. She then decided she was going to take a social studies curriculum position with Cobb County, and that ugliness from the Noel Cahan camp oozed over across the county line into Cobb County. Some murky Facebook parent group posts chased her from Cobb County as well. Anyway, that's the kind of candidate the GOP has on the ticket, up and down the ticket, and specifically through Noel Cahan in Georgia State House District 81. We'll talk with her opponent, her general election opponent, Mishael White, later in the show. So here in Atlanta, folks are all abuzz because we have a presidential candidate that lives here in Atlanta. And when I describe him, he's 37, he's gay, he's pro-choice, he's pro-pot, he's all about the ceasefire now in Gaza. He is anti-cop city. I mean, you might think this guy is a hair-on-fire, progressive, super lib Democrat, right? No. Nope. He's libertarian Chase Oliver. We've reached out to his campaign. Hope to have him on sometime soon. And I know a lot of people on the national level give no credence to his viability whatsoever. And I'm not saying I do either. I'm not saying he's going to win. I mean, that's a beyond long shot. That being said, he checks off a lot of boxes for folks left and right. There are a lot of folks on the right who are pro-pot now. There are a lot of folks, moderate, center-right, center, obviously left of center, who are pro-choice. He does, by the way, believe in the Hyde Amendment, which means no federal funding for abortions, which I think is kind of a thing already anyway. But for someone who, and again, the national temperature on the Israel-Gaza situation, he's more in line with that than I believe either of the other two candidates that have secured their party's nominations. I mean, prior to their conventions, of course, presumed nominees. And here in Atlanta, this is what I've been talking about for the last, year or so. My concern about the Cop City tug of war could come back to bite the Democratic Party and the Biden-Harris reelection efforts in the ass. I've been saying that. And Mayor Andre Dickens couldn't be further up the Biden-Harris pipeline than he is. He is a surrogate for President Joe Biden's reelection efforts, which means that Biden-Harris is tied, like it or not, to Cop City locally. And I've had several guests on this show who have said grassroots activists are not going to forget. Now, I've had a lot of Democratic strategists and establishment types within the party kind of dismiss that. Oh, they'll come home. Well, here locally, they now have something of an option, a spoiler. And there are paths for Joe Biden to win re-election without the state of Georgia. But I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I happen to think, with poll numbers already showing that Biden is off anywhere from 3 to 10% in the state of Georgia, that Chase Oliver's entry into the race takes Georgia off the table. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Did I mention Chase was gay, by the way? I think I did yesterday. But again, put it all together. You've got an under 40, gay, pro-choice, pro-marijuana legalization, anti-cop city, libertarian now candidate for president of the United States. Not RFK Jr., who I honestly all along thought was going to be a tough sell as something other than Trump or Biden, because he's a little long in the tooth as well. His vocal issues make him seem older than he even is. It's just the hand you're dealt. It's no different than, President Biden having his long battle with a stuttering issue. It's not fair, but that's just the hand he's dealt. I don't know what you say about Donald. He don't talk too good. But Chase Oliver is going to present a clear difference between the other two. A year ago, by the way, Chase, an Atlanta resident, spoke at one of the handful of open forums that City Council held to hear feedback on the Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility. Here is Chase Oliver.
My name is Chase Oliver, and I want to remind people I'm a member of the Libertarian Party, and the reason why I say that is because it's once again need to be reminded that this is not a left versus right issue. This is a right versus wrong issue when we talk about Cop City. What you have done is you have betrayed the trust of your constituents. You lied to us when you told this was only going to be $31 million. It's now costing twice that, and even if it were costing half that, it would be a waste of taxpayer money.
It's actually like 4 times that now, by the way.
We already have facilities to train our police, and it would be far less expensive if you just wanted to retrofit that instead of clear-cutting forests to create this facility. If you really cared about fiscal responsibility and using the people's taxpayer money wisely, you would not be buying back $36 million worth of land that you gave away for practically nothing. So I'm here to talk about not just the injustice that Cop City brings, but what militarization of police brings to us. I was in the streets in summer of 2020, when we were peacefully protesting the murder of George Floyd, the murder of Breonna Taylor and others, and it was the Atlanta police who decided to bring the tanks rolling down the street and who decided to call in the National Guard. It was y'all who corralled us. It was y'all who were pepper spraying and tear gassing us. It was the police who were pulling people out of their cars and arresting them for no reason other than the fact they were lost on the night of the protest. And so what does the police get in reward for that? $67 million of taxpayer money to fund your facility? That's ridiculous. I don't think it's right to be giving you $1 until you restore trust with the people. And the way you do that is pretty simple. You do that by by ending qualified immunity for the Atlanta City Police, so that we can get our day in court when we're done wrong. You do that by requiring your officers to hold liability insurance, so when they do wrong, it doesn't come out of the taxpayer's pocket from other services. It comes out of the pockets of the police officers who have to pay for those insurance policies. If you want to hold police accountable, there's a lot of ways to do it. But clear-cutting forests so that you can build this facility is a spit in the face of the people who have been out here speaking against it for months and months on end. Take a poll, read the room, listen to the people, and you will see that they don't want this. I also want to speak out against the slander that we are all out-of-towners. I've lived in and around Atlanta my entire life, and I love this city. I love the things that it represents because I love the people of this city, not its government. That's absolutely true. But when you say that we're out-of-towners, that's a lie. Because the truth is the people who are out-of-towners are the corporate donors who are backing the Atlanta Police Foundation.
Ooh.
They don't live on Peachtree Street, they live on Wall Street. They don't care about the people, they care about the almighty dollar. And they don't have our best interests at heart. And right now, if you vote for this facility, you don't have our best interests at heart. You're bought and paid for. You might as well be getting your 20 pieces of silver. Because right now, you are committing a Judas act against the people of Atlanta. I'm sorry there wasn't an invocation here today. It's Monday, but I'm about to take you to church. Because the Prince of Peace, the Lord Almighty Jesus Christ, taught me to love my fellow man, to not put them down, to not put my boot upon their neck. I support the Prince of Peace. I support a gospel of love. And I support that all people are free. They have inherent freedom and liberty. And every time you put another law, another regulation, another police force on the street, you're putting the boot on our necks. And the people are getting tired of it. This is a warning to those who are sitting in the ivory towers and those who sit here in elected office. You are making peaceful revolution impossible. And I don't support violence. I'm a pacifist. I oppose the initiation of force. We're not initiating force. Y'all are initiating force against us. Government is initiating force against individual people. And yes, there are systemic wrongs that need to be righted with our policing. There are people who are more affected than others. Those of you who have means, those of you who sit up here in the ivory tower, those of you who take the corporate money, y'all don't have to worry about the militarization of police. It's the people who go to work every day, who earn a living, who go to work, they raise a family, and they're just trying to do their best. And what you're doing is you're sending more militarized police into our neighborhoods. We don't want it. The people do not want it. And your job is to represent the people. And when you don't do that, you're failing. You're failing, and you're a failure. And I want to say anybody who supports this is a failure, and they deserve to be challenged in the next election. And I am outside the two-party system, but I'll tell you right now, I will fight like hell to make sure that each and every one of you is replaced. I will find somebody that's good to support in the city of Atlanta who wants to actually represent the people and not the government and not the corporate stooges who fund you. The truth is you're going to have hundreds of people marching in here. You're going to have people coming through here to fight this. And we're not props either. We are families. We are communities, and we are people who are sick and tired of having to come here and give public comment when you already know what the public thinks. Yep. You already know this. You don't need us to come here and shame you in this performative exercise that you give us. Just give us the liberty to represent us like you want us to. Let us be free people. Quit over-militarizing our police. Quit over-militarizing our streets. Quit filling our jails up with people who don't need to be there. There are far too many people who are in jail, as you said, sleeping with bed bugs than they are getting addiction therapy services, which is what they really need. Yeah. If you want to stop the prison cycle, then you need to stop it where it is. And that's with the drug war. That's with the continuation of policies that perpetuate poverty in all of our communities. Free the people. Let us run our business and get out of it. And to the police, I want to tell you right now, I support the need to enforce laws, but the truth is we have too many laws. We have too many reasons to throw people in jail, and I will not stand up for a police state, and that's what you're doing right here. Take the police out of this. Figure out new ways to make our communities safer. Don't do it at the barrel of a gun. Don't do it with the initiation of force. Because when you do that, you get a response back. That's what happens. The more you militarize our police, the more the world will become militarized. And this isn't just about Atlanta. So again, I'm tired of the slander that this is just about people in Atlanta. Because there are going to be police departments all over the country that will be swarming to get trained at this facility so they can militarize and crack down on their populations back at home. And when they pay for that, who's going to profit? Not the city of Atlanta, but the private Atlanta Police Foundation. They're the ones who are going to make all the money. So you're giving them everything, and you're letting them make everything. What kind of a government is that? That is a corporate-controlled government. That is fascism. And I oppose it. And I ask that the people of Atlanta rise up and continue, no matter what you do today, no matter how you vote, continue to let their voices be heard. Because we will not be silenced by a few select privileged people who are getting elected up to office in a political process that itself is rigged many times to help the powerful and the rich get ahead. I support freedom for all people, oppose Cop City, and viva Tortuga. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I know that there have to be a lot of progressive and liberal activists who are going to compare that guy to Joe Biden here locally, and I know where their votes are going to go. And before you start adding me, and you can, at Ron Show ATL, Facebook, Instagram, the X platform, Threads, getting angry because you think I'm elevating this guy. I didn't make him the nominee. But I have been talking about this issue, dismissiveness towards grassroots activists for Cop City, for the pro-Palestinian movement. Agree or disagree, Chase Oliver presents an option for those voters to remain ideologically pure of mind when they go to vote. They don't have to choose between what they're going to perceive as the lesser of two evils, and they're not going to have to say, well, I'm sitting it out, which of course aids Trump. They're going to have an option in at least 38 states, and I know Georgia's one of them. And that should be something that Biden-Harris is very concerned about. Now listen, he's a libertarian, so his platform ain't perfect. He wants government's hands off of, regulatory oversight of industries that have long needed way more regulatory oversight. He's not perfect. But on the issues that move the under 40 voter, he is the absolute worst candidate for Biden-Harris reelection to appear on the ballot and to hit the campaign trail. He's young. He's well-spoken. He's pro-choice. He's pro-marijuana legalization. He is pro-ceasefire now. And he is now the Libertarian nominee for president of the United States. We'll talk more about him after the break. Got to take a quick one here. The Ron Show on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, on demand at ProgressiveVoices.com, or wherever you podcast. I always encourage folks who are listening along and want to hear where I'm getting this stuff from. What are your citations? I always put them in the show notes. That's what I call them, show notes, at RonShowATL.com. And again, if you want to at me because you think I'm elevating Chase Oliver or I'm promoting it, I'm not. I've been talking about this being a problem for Biden-Harris and through Mayor Andre Dickens and the Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility stance that the city and a majority of its council has taken, despite the overwhelming pushback from thousands of residents who've shown up to speak, and even those who've signed that petition that we still have sitting in boxes right now. I mean, will there be a referendum on in November when, by the way, the facility will be damn near complete? No, I doubt it. Have my doubts. That's not democracy, and that's not something that the Democratic Party here in Georgia and Democrats in Atlanta, and that's what all of those elected officials on city council and in the mayor's office are. Democrats, that's not something that they can hang their hats on. While speaking of, hand-wringing about the end of democracy, if you don't have respect for democracy at the local level, how are these grassroots activists going to take you seriously when you point to the fascist narcissist who's atop the GOP ticket and make the, valid argument that he's going to end democracy as we know it as well? Make no mistake, he's a libertarian. He wants to get rid of the Department of Education. He wants to get rid of any gun restrictions whatsoever. He wants to let the free market be the free market when it comes to healthcare and our economy. It's not smart. It's very dangerous. But he's actually very much pro-immigration. He wants to expand the HB1 visa and startup visas. He wants to create an easier path to citizenship for DACA-eligible residents and the kids of foreign workers admitted to the U.S. on temporary work visas. He wants a simpler path to citizenship for folks who are already here. He's all about criminal justice reform. He wants to end the death penalty. He wants to get rid of the war on drugs. He's all about civil liberties and protecting our privacy rights against these nefarious corporations that are constantly listening in on us. He wants to end wars. I'm just sitting here scanning through his issues. He's pro-choice. Now, he's a little wishy-washy on student loans, but he essentially wants to get rid of federally backed student loans altogether, make the ones that we have interest-free, and we said he would pay for it by closing military bases overseas. Allow students to stabilize their financial situations by allowing student loan debt to be dischargeable in bankruptcy, just the way any other loan is. And then it gets crazy. The gun rights for all, health care, free market, reducing inflation. He thinks that's a government spending problem when it's more free market. Again, he's not perfect, but for the under 40 voter right now, for those grassroots activists here locally who have been pioneering the fight against the Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility in a swing state where Joe Biden only won by less than 12,000 votes, Chase Oliver on the ballot, I believe, takes Georgia off the table for Biden-Harris. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not advocating that that's who these folks should vote for. I'm just saying I've been talking to these folks for more than a year now. I know where their mind is. Mishael White, Democratic candidate for Georgia House District 81. He's running against a real stirrer by the name of Noel Kahayan. We'll talk with him next when the Ron Show returns on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, on demand at ProgressiveVoices.com, or wherever you podcast.
This is the Ron Show on America One Radio.
So yesterday we dipped our toes a little bit in on a Georgia State House race, District 81. And when I say dipped our toes in on the discussion a little bit, it's only because of one of the candidates who won in primaries last week, Noel Kahayan, defeated Lauren Daniel, who, as an incumbent, we thought was in a pretty safe spot. However, Noel likes to stir a little bit of trouble from time to time. We detailed a little bit a story of an educator who was moving from Maryland to work at a job, a newly created position in the Cherokee County school system. Noel Kahayan and some parents in Cherokee County meeting at a golf club clubhouse decided to stir up some concerns over potential critical race theory ideology seeping into public schools. I mean, just out of thin air. Had nothing anywhere anybody said a thing about this. This was a DEI position, which of course they were obviously against as well, concocted this CRT narrative. This poor woman, Cecilia Lewis, not only decided not to take the job after a contentious school board meeting where students and board members were evacuated, escorted to safety because of threatening outbursts from attendees. She turned the job down, decided, well, I'm already moving to Georgia. Let me find another job. Got another job in neighboring Cobb County, and then a murky Facebook group there learned that this Cecilia Lewis, who had these, conversations being had about her and DEI and CRT, and she was just going to go be a social studies instructor. Anyway, she wound up being chased off from that job too. Noel Kahayan is on the ballot in House District 81, and that's the kind of trouble she brings with her. We decided we wanted to have on her opponent, who won the Democratic primary. And I'm going to try and say his name right. I think I got it because we talked before we went on the air here. Mishael White, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. Hey, how you doing?
Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it right. Good job.
So I know you're probably more apt to want to talk about your policy positions than your opponent. So allow me to do the opponent bashing if you don't mind, or if you want to join in, feel free. I'm a little concerned about the likes of Noel Kahayan because I just feel like we've had a lot of this making its way into state legislatures, and obviously we've already got a Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress. We've got a congressional representation that's already quite concerning, and I'd like to see more candidates like that kind of nip it in the bud, as Barney Fife used to say. So, Mishael, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been a long time truck driver, a real estate investor as well. You've got your hands in a few different pots, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm I've been married 23 years to my wife, my high school sweetheart. I have 6 beautiful children, three boys, 3 girls, and I have 2 grandchildren. And I've always been a person who's been, civically engaged as much as is possible as my schedule would allow. I believe very deeply in the political process, and I think that the political process works best the more people are included in it. And when we take an active approach to our local politics in our community. It's about community service and public service. And so that's why I decided to run.
One of the things that I'm sort of impressed by you in is that being in the state legislature doesn't really allow for the working man or woman to really participate, because who can just take off 6 to 15 weeks at a time to work in the state legislature? And yet you've obviously found a way that you can make this happen. Was that something that you and your wife had to sit down and discuss and figure out how the finances were going to work, or how did that conversation play out for you guys?
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. We had to sit down and have those, that kitchen table talk and look at, our finances, our budget, our income, expenses, and kind of work out a plan to where this would be workable, to where I could potentially do both. And actually, my wife, she works for she's in the school system. She works for Clayton County Public Schools, so she'll have to pick up a little bit of the slack. And then also too, just with my, my real estate investing business, I get income from that, and different things. So there's just ways that we figured we could work it and make it work, but at the same time too, it is a sacrifice. But I wanted my children and my wife and even my family and friends to see me setting an example of making a sacrifice for the greater good.
So this is a newly created district. I mean, the number's been around for a while, but it used to be in Northeast Atlanta or Northeast Metro Atlanta, and now it's kind of hugging the eastern and southeastern portions around McDonough, in mostly Henry County. So tell us a little bit about the district. I know you probably crisscrossed it a good bit, campaigning in the primary. What are you hearing is the number one, or give me, I guess, top 3 issues that are facing voters that you've been interacting with while on the trail?
Okay, well, that's, number one, top one is education. We have to make investments in education, make sure that our children have safe, clean schools to attend. And also too, making sure that our coming of age young adults have educational opportunities if they want to pursue post-secondary education or vocational training, technical training, things of that nature. So that's big. The other thing is infrastructure. What they're projecting here for Henry County is over the next few years, there's going to be the population size is going to increase by 50%. So that's a lot of volume. And then just me myself being a truck driver, one of my biggest pet peeves is traffic. And soon as you get like through this corridor right here in Henry County,
it's terrible.
It just slows down. So we have to, find ways to relieve some of that pressure, make investments in infrastructure, expanding our roads and bridges and things of that nature. And then the other thing is healthcare, Medicaid and Medicare expansion for our elderly, our seniors, and our sickly. And from my perspective, that's a moral issue. I'm someone who believes in the biblical tradition that you honor thy father and mother. And so we have to make sure that, our elderly, our seniors aren't pushed in a rock between a hard place by having to choose between making sure their healthcare needs are being met, whether that's prescriptions or doctor's appointment co-pays and things of that nature, or paying bills and being able to put food on the table. And so just in the district, these are the things that residents here, care about. Those 3 things: education, infrastructure, and healthcare.
So in a lot of those cases, there are some price tags that come with those, meeting those needs. Do you hear much about the cost or taxes or anything like that make you wonder, how we pay for that?
Well, here's the good thing. Right now, currently, Georgia has a $16 billion budget surplus. And so the money is already there. It's not even a thing where you have to look to try and create revenue by raising taxes or any of those things. It's about prioritizing these issues and what's in the best need of the citizens of the state and of the district and of the county. And so the money is already there. It's just about us prioritizing these things and making sure that funds are being allocated to fill the needs of the citizens of Georgia.
Let's go to transportation. You mentioned being a truck driver and traffic being a problem. Obviously, when you go through Henry County, oh my gosh, don't even and getting off the roads. Like if you get off any of those exits in that stretch, you're dealing with traffic just at the lights.
Ugly.
So,
Right.
I mean, what are some of your thoughts on how to alleviate that? Because it just seems to me like the Georgia Department of Transportation's mindset is, well, let's just add one more lane to it. That ought to fix it. But they're always 10, 15, 20 years behind on that anyway. And we're a state with, again, a top 10 metro area in the country that doesn't have the kind of mass transit that meets the needs of the population. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, one thing that I just from my experience is truck parking, tractor trailer parking, maybe even a rest area, or maybe even getting some type of truck stop, whether that would be a Love's or TA or a pilot, allocating funds for that type of project or something like that. That would do a lot in curing the traffic, because what happens is if you're a trucker and you're coming south and you have to make it to Savannah, or you're going to Florida, you're gonna, if you don't have anywhere to park, you're gonna keep driving till you have somewhere to park. And just as a trucker, what I can tell you is that most truckers prefer to drive at night because there's less traffic.
Yeah.
It's an open road for the most part. But if you don't have anywhere to park your rig that's safe, or if there's not a rest area, if the next rest area isn't maybe 100 or 200 miles away, then you're going to be forced to keep driving. And a lot of times what happens, many truckers are forced to keep driving during rush hour, during the busiest times of the day. And even like when you look at it, that's where you see a lot of the traffic is because of the trucks.
So let me ask you. Well, let me ask you from the flip side of this, because I'm not a truck driver though. And you talked about rush hour traffic and the crush, the just sheer volume of vehicles on the road.
Right.
McDonough's not that far from Atlanta, but I know that there are people who live in Henry County that work maybe up in Clayton or Fulton or maybe at the airport or something along those lines. And they've got to get in that car and make that. It should be a 20-minute drive, and it's 45 minutes to an hour minimum.
Right.
In the hottest parts, traffic-wise, of the day. And again, we don't have any other means to get there. There's no rail network. There's no mass transit network of any kind. Is there any appetite for something like that in that area?
From what I understand, there are talks of maybe bringing some type of mass transit system, maybe even some type of rail transit. From what I understand, I have been, and this is one of the things I'm planning on doing. I plan on, talking to some of the county commissioners, the commissioner for my district, seeing what other types of remedies that we can come up with. But from my understanding, there is an appetite for some type of mass transit to kind of also get some cars off the road as well.
Yeah. Now, because I too am a real estate agent, I'm a realtor as well. I've showed a lot of homes in that area, and housing is a big issue. One of the reasons that Henry County is growing so fast is because homes are, relatively speaking, for Metro Atlanta anyway, more affordable. But again, that just brings a crush of people moving down there who are going to be on the interstates, making their way back up towards the city. So housing is sort of an issue. What are your thoughts on development and trying to take a smart growth approach for that area?
Right. Well, that's one of the things that's one of the things that's included in the infrastructure piece, making sure that we're incentivizing builders to come down here and build homes and, create new subdivisions. Because one of the good things about the area is there is a lot of green space. There is a lot of, buildable land. So it just be a matter of, all of these things coming together from, the state legislature side to the county commissioner side and even the local council and local city council, like even right here in Locust Grove, and coming together and making a concerted push and effort to make to make it an attractive place for builders to come and want to build, whether that's through tax credits, incentives. There's a whole different way that, we can approach that issue. But one of the ththings that I am seeing, like, because I've only been here 3 years, right? I moved here in 2021, and just like in my subdivision, which is a new subdivision, it's doubled since I've been here.
Yep.
There is a lot of room for growth and things of that nature. So it's just about us, putting our mind to it.
And you see,
and that's one of the things I aim to do at the state legislature, making sure we can get dollars allocated for those types of projects.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you see as a real estate investor where subdivision, we tend to do this backwards in this country, where we let a development develop and then realize, oh God, we need infrastructure for it, and there's no impact fee for after the fact. We don't charge the impact fee beforehand to get the infrastructure in place, so that we're not met, on a 2-lane road with a 500 home subdivision leading to
right.
That to me is kind of bass backwards, to use a phrase. But let's pivot now. You're in the general election cycle, and you're going to have to start talking about who you're running against. And we've seen the sort of cantankerous, headbutting going on. Cherokee County School District, Cobb County Schools is a bit of a mess right now. And you don't hear that sort of acrimony and noise going on in the Henry County school system. Does it concern you that someone like a Nahul Kahan could be representing that district, who has sort of, ruffled some feathers and made some aspersions about folks, making whispers about critical race theory and DEI?
Right. Yeah, it does. I'm deeply concerned by Ms. Kahanian's disposition in her approach to politics. I think it's a cynical approach, and I think it's bad for the country, number one, but more specifically, I think it's bad for the district. Just looking at her policies, her platform, I don't see her addressing any of the issues that residents here in the district care about. Keep in mind, I'm a resident of the district too, and election integrity and securing the border and these things. That's not what I care about. That's not what my neighbors care about. That's not what my friends and my relatives who stay in this area care about. What we care about is making sure our kids have good, clean schools to go to, making sure that we're making investments in infrastructure so a 20-minute commute doesn't become an hour commute just because you're going to the store, and making sure that we have some type of, access to quality, affordable health care. That's what the residents of the district care about. And just, my overall view and assessment of Ms. Kahanian and her policies is she think that she's here to represent and fight for Trump. But that's not the position. The position is to represent and fight for residents of the district and working families. And that's what I aim to do as representative for District 81.
We're with Mishael White, Democrat, who is running for the Georgia State House District 81. And I emphasize the word State House District because when you look at his opponent, Nahul Kahanian's website, she's talking about securing the border of what, Florida, Alabama? I mean, what are you going to do from the state?
Exactly. They ain't got nothing to do. You're not even a border state.
Right. Second Amendment rights. I mean, this could not be a more freer Second Amendment state already. What else would she do in the state? And then the woke agenda. I mean, this is all just dog whistle stuff and the sort of divisive Karen-like rhetoric that just seems to be permeating our conversation. So I'm glad you had a few minutes to talk with me today, and I hope things are going well on the campaign trail. The fundraising going well for you? You guys got some good support on the.
Well, we just now getting our sea legs under us. Of course, I'm a first time candidate, so the fundraising is going to be a major component. You know what I mean? So anything that your listeners could contribute to the campaign, it would be appreciated.
So how do they go about finding you?
My website, votemishaelwhite.com.
All right, we'll add that in the show notes at ronshowatl.com so it's easy for folks to find, since I already know how to spell your name anyway.
Right.
Mishael White, thanks so much for the time today. I appreciate you. Good luck on the campaign trail, and thanks for joining The Ron Show.
All right, thank you.
Incidentally, The Ron Show airs first, 9 to 10 a.m. weekdays on America One Radio. We replay at 5 to 6 p.m. It's available on demand pretty much all day after I get the show done around 10 a.m. at progressivevoices.com, I believe. And then I podcast it sometime later in the afternoon, sometimes later in the evening if my day gets past me. I'm only pointing all this out because As I'm putting this show together, it's a little bit after 9 as I'm finishing the last segment. The first segment's already on the air. Tia Mitchell, 17 hours ago, reported on Katie Stamper, the Woodstock attorney who won the Democratic primary for Georgia's 11th congressional district race, who we had Seth Taylor on yesterday. He is a 2024 DNC delegate and Fulton County Democratic Party captain for Sandy Springs. He pointed out days ago that Katie Stamper's donated money to Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz, Ron DeSantis. She's a Republican. She's a GOP plant. That's what Seth Taylor surmises. It would seem to bear itself out in FEC filings. And we had him on the show 24 hours ago as I'm putting this show together in the 9 o'clock hour. 17 hours ago, or 7 hours after he appeared on the show, Tia Mitchell had the story in the AJC. And I'm not saying Tia's listening, but because she's got a show to do herself. She's on a Politically Georgia podcast in the 10 a.m. hour. Okay, cool. Maybe she wasn't listening. Maybe she did. Maybe she did just as I did and spotted Seth's tweet days later, by the way. And it was 2 days after he tweeted this that I spotted it myself. Or a day, because I think I had him. No, it was 2 days later. Anyway, she spotted the same tweet or heard us talking about it. And anyway, bam, now it's a story. And now there's more to the story in the Politically Georgia blog in today's Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That is where they write that party leaders blamed Katie Stamper's campaign on a GOP effort to deceive voters, though it's not clear what that would accomplish. Stamper has little chance of beating incumbent Representative Barry Loudermilk in a subtly GOP district. Democratic leaders are more concerned about the bid by Janice Van Ness, a former Republican state senator now running as a Democrat against incumbent Rockdale Commission Chair Oz Nesbitt. The two wound up as the top two finishers in the 5-candidate race and are headed to a June 18th runoff. Representative Nikema Williams, my congressperson, the Atlanta resident who chairs the Democratic Party of Georgia, made clear neither candidate had the party's blessings in a statement late Tuesday. Georgia Republicans know their extreme agenda is out of touch with voters, which explains why Republicans across the state, including Katie Stamper in the 11th Congressional District and Janice Van Ness in Rockdale County, felt the need to deceive Georgians about their true partisanship in order to win votes. That is the statement from my congressperson, Nikema Williams, and the chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Republicans ploy to effectively take away the choice that voters should have in November by disguising themselves as Democrats is shameful and anti-democratic, period, Williams said. Politically Georgia folks continue to write, they aren't the only Republicans who might be masquerading as Dinos or Democrats in name only. A handful of far-right renegades in deep red Oconee County, we mentioned those two yesterday, also ran for local posts as Democrats this cycle. Yes, Representative Williams, that is anti-democratic maneuvering and chicanery, as it's the city of Atlanta sitting on petition boxes for a referendum they sought to have to put the brakes on a public safety training facility being built in the city of Atlanta. And see, this is why I've been talking about this for a year. And I'm not saying I predicted we'd be in this sort of scenario where there would be an option on the ballot for the presidency of the United States that would be pro-choice. And I obviously didn't know about the Gaza thing a year ago because it only happened in October. But anti-war, pro-marijuana, anti-cop city. Democrats in Atlanta and in Georgia have painted themselves into a corner that's going to be hard to tiptoe out of the next 5 months or so. But I'm here to watch it somehow happen if it does. Popcorn's a poppin'. I want to thank Mishael White for joining us today on the show. It was good to talk to him. He's running for that House district race, District 81. I'll include his campaign sites in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. All the show notes from today's show, of course, at ronshowatl.com. I actually can't believe I thought yesterday morning I was going to take just this short week off when there's so much actually going on. And I haven't even talked about the Trump trial. By the way, I saw the Civil War movie. I was kind of underwhelmed. I didn't realize it was going to kind of be a focus on photojournalism in a fictitious Civil War scenario, but okay, whatever. It was all right. Wasn't great. Thank you for joining me. Back tomorrow, 9 to 10 a.m. on the America One Radio app. We replay 5 to 6 p.m. and then on demand all day at progressivevoices.com or wherever you podcast. Have yourselves a great Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.